Happy Friday to you, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a enjoyable Thanksgiving, albeit it's probably a little bit far away. Had to connect on a video like I'm doing with you right now. But I tell you what, you'll get used to it. You have to get used to it. We got to get through this thing together, and we will get it done. Today I'm talking about part 2 of what would happen if we humans suddenly disappeared from the planet Earth. What would happen to our dogs? Would they be able to thrive and survive, or would they just roll over and die? Would Captain be able to use the speed in which he chases that ball and the ability to find it when he loses it? Would he be able to use that to his advantage? Would it help him survive if I weren't here to feed him and neither were you? What would happen to our dogs? That's a really kind of like apocalyptic type question. And it can definitely cause you to be a little bit depressed thinking about it. But if it does happen, what will happen? And at the end of the day, what it really causes us is our ability to understand our dogs. Because what they would revert back to is the very mechanisms, the processes and structures that govern their behavior today. So again, they're not going to invent something new. They're going to go back to something old that's been lying kind of dormant because we humans have been providing food for them, shelter for them, limiting their ability to reproduce, and kind of manipulating all that through artificial selection. But take us out of the picture and all that stuff, what would happen to them? Scientists have all agreed they'll go back to being what they were before we stuck our fingers into that genetic and evolutionary pie. So I want to kind of cover that in a little bit more detail today. 50 years after humans vanished, according to Alan Weisman, author of The World Without Us. What would that be like? He says that large animals have been living on the periphery of human existence for years and years. And that's absolutely true. Bears, mountain lions, wolves, coyotes, lions, large carnivores, large predators, very large predators, have been pushed out to the periphery edge by we humans and all of our urban sprawl and expansion into the wilderness. We've caused them to kind of back up a little bit. But again, if we're taken out of the picture, they're coming back into the picture. And they're coming back into the picture very quickly. According to Allen, dogs would have major competition for food, and they'd be hunted themselves. If there's a battle between a dog and a wolf, the wild animal always wins. Absolutely true. I've seen a couple of cases in which wild dogs, hunting dogs, went up against a wolf, and the outcome wasn't very good for the hunting dogs. The wolves are incredible predators, and they would flat out, unfortunately, take it to our dogs and probably start to even hunt our dogs. No doubt that there'd be some breeding. This already happens today. There are wild wolves who do breed with domestic dogs. There are wild wolves who breed with coyotes. They do. That is happening. So there's no doubt that would happen. But would dogs be around long enough for that to even occur? According to Alan Weisman, he says it's not going to happen. The proliferation of the other big aggressive animals would catch up to them in a real hurry. And animals like our dogs would find themselves in fierce competition for food and survival. He does go on to say that the dogs, though, in Australia, Hawaii, and other islands would not have to compete with those larger carnivores and stand a better chance of surviving. But at the end of the day, most of our dogs just aren't going to make it. Okay, so that's his view. That's Alan Weisman's view. But then Dr. Daniel Peretti also chimes in and says, the fine distinctions among the 300 breeds of dogs that humans have painstakingly engineered would vanish fast because dogs are infertile, meaning they have no hang-ups when it comes to reproducing with other breeds. The dogs that survive would become mutts within a short period of time. Absolutely agree there. After the initial shakedown, according to Mark Durd, the author of How the Dog Became the Dog, the early years when poorly equipped dogs would perish, dogs would do quite well. So in other words, he kind of contradicts Alan Weisman and Dr. Daniel Peretti. He says that animals, after the initial shakedown, in which there would be the culling of the bulldogs, the large breeds I talked about yesterday, the dogs whose skill sets are not very good, the dogs whose cognition has not been kept at a level that would be required of them to survive. After that initial shakedown and all of those dogs were gone, he says that he believes some dogs will survive. He says, without people around to feed them and optimize their health, dogs would eventually revert to a single cycle reproduction just like wolves and start to develop hierarchies just like wolves. All the scientists in this little article all agree on this, all of them, from Mark Bekoff, Professor Emeritus at the University of Colorado, Dr. Daniel Peretti, and Alan Weisman, Mark Durr, list goes on and on. All agree dogs will have formed packs, this is within the first 50 years, with close-knit hierarchical societies seen among wolves. They would have higher and lower ranking animals, according to Bekoff. Absolutely true. Again, these processes and structures are still in our dogs. That's why I preach it day in and day out. They're there. They're just dormant and suppressed because it's kind of like the old use it or lose it. If you don't need it, really don't use it type situation. They're just not using it because they don't have to. They don't have to. This ball that I have for Captain right here, that he wants me to throw again, is easy prey. Easy. It doesn't fight back. It doesn't really zig or zag. Take the high ground, low ground, try and go across that river, or fight back when it's finally cornered. It doesn't do this. Easy prey for him, but nevertheless, he's pursuing it at top speed. If the throw is errant on my part, he has to search for it over and over again. These are skills that he would have to use, and those are skills that he's garnered from being a wolf first before mankind jumped in and said, hey, can you use those skills that you had as a wolf and use that to push reluctant cattle with your teeth? Yeah, make them move. Make them get in that pen over there. You don't have to ask nicely. Just use your teeth and drive them that way. Use the same kind of tactics that a wolf would use on the back end of an elk. Don't go attacking the front end. Go to the back end, the safer area, and use it to drive them forward in a particular direction to achieve your goal. These are skills that dogs have because of their wolf ancestry, but have been narrowed down, put into a funnel, channeled to be able to be useful to mankind. Okay, so within 5 generations or so, they would have wolf-like body sizes and not appearances, if not appearances. Meaning that within the first 50 years, not only would dogs go from a twice-a-year reproduction cycle, they would go to a once-a-year reproduction cycle. They would form deep alliances. They would have hierarchies with high-ranking animals, low-ranking animals. They would then develop body sizes that would replicate those of wolves to a degree. In fact, Alan Weisman goes on to say, and along with Mark Durr, that no doubt those physical changes would occur, that at the end, that they believe within about 100 years, dogs would have a houndy pit bull type appearance. A houndy pit bull type appearance. Short nose of a pit bull with the graceful long legs of a hound. Probably be about 50 to 70 pounds. Captain's 55 pounds. Big enough to be fearsome and fast and rangy, but not so big that it wouldn't be able to sustain itself. Some will have shorter hair in the hotter climates, and those that live in the northern climates will have longer hair. But they do believe that dogs will survive. In all, just about everyone except for Alan Weisman to a degree believe that dogs will survive. I think they will too. Look at wolves. They're one of the most profitable species out there. They have been able to proliferate. They've been able to survive in multiple continents over hundreds of years, thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. They have been here and been able to conduct themselves and hunt and find food and form alliances and cooperate. All the things I've talked about with producers and scroungers, they've been able to do it. They've been able to do it very well to a degree that they're still here today. And so are coyotes. They're also here. A lot of wild canids have been able to survive no matter how much we've impeded upon their abilities, their hunting grounds, their interrupting reproduction cycles that we do because we go out there and hunt them during those times of the year. I believe that dogs will survive. And I believe that according to these scientists, they will fall back on those processes and structures that they still continue to have today. That light switch would just suddenly get turned on. And when it is suddenly turned on, our dogs will go back to being the wolves that they are. They are not a species that just was created out of evolution by itself. It did not just come out of nowhere. We simply tapped into what is there, and we created what is here today. And when we're not here to be like that puppet master, manipulating them like puppets on a string, those strings will be severed forevermore. And dogs will have to go back to those tools that nature gave their ancestors to survive. And that's kind of neat knowing, because this is just more reinforcement, more affirmation of the science behind the domestic dog. How they behave, why would they behave in a certain way? We always have to think of the wolf. Well, again, when I wrote in my book, Embracing the Wild in Your Dog, I talked about the triangle, the man part of the triangle, meaning the human part, the dog part of the triangle, and the wolf part. Anytime you're trying to break down the behavior of a dog and you're trying to adjust it, modify it, encourage it, or make it go away, if you fail to leave out any parts of that triangle, think of it like the fire triangle. You need heat, fuel, and oxygen. Take any one of those parts away, and there's no longer a fire. And there will no longer be any learning on the part of your dog. Okay, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. A little dark, granted, but hey, I chose nice scenery in the background with a lot of sunlight out here to help brighten it up. Just good to know that there's still affirmation out there today in modern science of what I've been preaching for decades and decades. What is still true. Our dogs still are wolves in dog's clothing. Cattle dog, this is an orange rabbit dangling from a ball. If you want to eat, you better go get it. Oh, I'm glad that throw was about 2 feet shorter than what it was. Otherwise, he's going to have to go swim if he's going to catch that rabbit. Okay, guys, I've enjoyed it. I'll see you again tomorrow. In the meantime, be safe. Have a great training day. All right, cattle dog, one more throw. All right, man, try not to fall in the river. Okay, that rabbit, he's going to have to search for. I don't have it. Might go find the dinner. There he goes. He's going to have to use the wolf part in him. See you later.